ever watch the first episode of an anime only to drop it immediately, but then a few weeks later everyone's still talking about it? So you try again, and it's actually awesome? Yeah, same here. Episode 1 is the most important episode of any TV show, but especially for anime. With tens of anime coming out every season and your backlog only growing in size, a new anime has to really work at it to grab your attention. Unfortunately, sometimes the first episode can slip and fall off the roof and hit every branch on the way down, but then get back up and become one of the most interesting shows of the season. Dead Mount Deathplay is one of those anime. We just finished watching it and absolutely loved it, but we almost dropped it within the first 5 minutes. So let's talk about an amazing show with an awful first episode. Spoilers for the first episode, by the way.
Dead Mount Deathplay is the newest multi-character urban fantasy opera by Narita Ryugo, the creator of Durarara and Bakano. I was about to write that it has a normal name unlike those two, but look at it. What does Dead Mount Deathplay even mean? Maybe we'll get to find out as the second core comes out in the fall 2023 season. But back to the main topic at hand. It's a god-awful first episode. The first episode starts with a fantasy war of all things, and the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, generic isekai. And there's a magic symbol, okay. Oh, that's quite a lot more violent than your average isekai. And then I see this CG monstrosity, and I am ready to turn it off. But
I had an inkling something was up here. Why was the logo like that? Why was it all so vague? Didn't the description say something about reincarnation? Let's see where this goes.
The fight is cool, but I'm vaguely uninterested in the characters. Who are the Calamity Crusher and the Corpse God? I don't even know these men. This feels more like a final episode fight than an episode 1 fight. 9 minutes of generic fantasy world fighting later, and I'm really ready to turn it off. But then, we wake up in the modern world. Okay, color me interested. Maybe this is a reverse isekai and the Calamity Crusher has been reincarnated. Wait, his throat's been slashed? Okay. I like this drone-using information broker. He kind of reminds me of Izaya Orihara from Durarara. The next few minutes are some fun comedy, but nothing special. When it's revealed this Yuno Gasai knockoff is the one who attacked him, I'm less interested in the mystery. But the episode is picking up the pace, and the reveal at the end that our protagonist is not in fact the Calamity Crusher, but is in fact the Corpse God, a nice bait and switch, releasing a dangerous villain into the human world. Okay, now I want to know what's going on. But god, that first episode sucked.
I see what the episode was trying to do. It was a slow build to make us think we're watching the hero. Why is it a problem then, you ask? Well, it was boring. We almost missed the reveal and would have left thinking it was just another trashy isekai.
And I'm an isekai fan, but this beginning was too generic even for me. We really like this show and all the information present is important to the wider story, but it wasn't engaging. Let's break down what that episode did wrong and what we would change to improve it. Also, if anything sounded interesting, check the show out. We watched it dubbed and it's well worth a watch.
Let's start from the top. 9 minutes of uninterrupted CGI fantasy battle with little context. This is not the most engaging introduction to a world. With media, for us to care about a fight, we need to have a proper build-up and anticipation and understanding. Knowing the ideology of both parties, a clash of ideals if you will, just makes it so much more engaging. A good example is Demon Slayer. Each demon has a morality that directly opposes the protagonist, but without it, it would really just be pretty fights. To improve this beginning section, I would make it the whole episode. Wait, hear me out. I know I said the fight was long and boring, but what if we intersplice the fantasy battle with real-world protagonist Polka running from an assassin, blood dripping from his neck? Letting us see both of these simultaneously will add in that element of mystery. How do these two places connect? One fantasy, one contemporary, with seemingly no similarities, but there could be.
So, we recut the whole episode, turning it from this into this. Let's break it down, and if you agree with our retelling of the episode, let us know down in the comments. And if you disagree, let us know too. We could be wrong. We could have ruined the whole episode. We start the episode largely the same, with the Calamity Crusher walking dramatically into the cave. The nameless knights are getting slashed up so violently, Jesus. As the Calamity Crusher is being introduced, cut cleanly to Polka waking up in the alley. He looks at his hands and he looks around.
Cut back to the introduction for the Corpse Eater.
Wait, the what? What? Yes.
Adding that shot of Polka early there allows us as the audience to know there's something interesting and different going on. You're thinking about the mystery right away instead of halfway through the episode. We also delayed the CG skeleton just enough that you'd be invested enough not to turn it off here. Now that we've introduced the corpse god and shown him off a little bit, cut back to Polka walking in Tokyo. We've specifically removed the scene where he finds out his neck has been slashed. There's enough mystery already, and it's a cool reveal for a little later. We show some of the drone in this section, but it'd be really cool to hide the information broker, Takumi Kuryu's, face for just slightly more mystery. Then cut back to the fantasy battle. We want this section to keep going like normal, but bring in the Calamity Crusher and Corpse God's backstory a little earlier. Now that we've seen this, when we cut back to Tokyo and Polka is commenting on how happy all the kids look, we have context for his feelings. At this point, we're still supposed to think it's the Calamity
Crusher
who's reincarnated, but aside from that, we don't know an attempt has been made on his life. Now we jump back to when Polka's being interrogated by the police so they can comment on his neck wound. That should add a little extra spice. From there we can let it run into the modern world, right up until Misaki Sakimiya is revealed as the assassin. Maybe cut a few of the comedy scenes to keep tension high. Because we're getting to the climax, quick cuts between the modern chase scene and fantasy fight world would really raise the tension. Now we have the section about the evil eye. So now we have context for Polka as he enters the Yakuza murder room. But then we cut back to the big fantasy battle's climactic finish. But what was the outcome? Because this question is still fresh in your mind, the reveal of who we've been watching this whole time in the modern world should at least be a little more dramatic. The rest of the first episode can play out as before, filling us in on the rest of the details and what to expect from the show going forward.
I think this episode would have done a much better job getting me hooked early enough to watch through to the scene that actually caught my attention. If you've watched Dead Mount Deathplay, do you prefer this recut? We're especially interested in people who couldn't get through the first episode. What do you think of the retelling?
Now just try and get all the cheese.
Did you know we have a Patreon? Feel free to check it out if you like our content and have the means to support us on our mission to inform and entertain the anime community.
Finish this thought. I am a slave to
The booty.
Deathplay is far from the only great anime with a poor first episode. It's not hard to find people online talking about horrible first episodes from every season, but Gintama is a standout one to me. I have a friend who adores Gintama. He's always trying to get me to watch it. I've tried I think 3 or 4 times, but that first episode, man. It's funny, for sure, but it's telling a story that should take place around episode 50. The comedy is obtuse and very Japanese, so you will need a good understanding of Japanese comedy beats, otherwise you will bounce right off it. They could have eased viewers in, but instead they thought jumping right into a confusing few episodes was the best call. Very Gintama. Another fantastic example is Hitman Reborn. If you've seen this surprisingly underrepresented gem of a battle shonen, you will know that part of why it's so unloved in current year is due to its rough gag comedy beginnings. The story goes, Akira Amano originally wanted to make a gag comedy, but was eventually convinced to make it into a battle shonen. I describe it as rough because it's a very early 2000s in its joke style with lots of slapstick humor. It worked for me as a young teenager at least. Regardless, towards the back of the first season, the show pivots into a more action-heavy direction, building some really fantastic character moments and one of the coolest main character themes ever. Like, seriously, listen to this. Absolutely check this one out if you like shonen battle. It's good.
I personally stopped watching Space Dandy maybe halfway through episode 1. It wasn't until we met that I actually ended up watching both seasons fully due to someone's insistence. The fan service was a bit too much for me, being 16 and on my parents' Netflix. And it's a shame because it's a really outstanding sci-fi series that gets overlooked a lot. I think I would find the fan service way more palatable now, but I know a lot of other people will probably put off of it for similar reasons. I think the horniness is actually pretty relevant to the show, and I wouldn't want it removed, but it definitely gave me the wrong impression of the eclectic anthology it truly is.
Now, why does this even matter? The first episode of anything is your introduction to the world, characters, and everything in between. It needs to get you invested, fast, especially in the modern anime landscape. When all we had were a handful of fan-translated works, I would literally watch everything because it was all I had. But nowadays, with everything getting a simulcast sub and a dub only a few weeks behind, there's really no need to watch everything.
We're big advocates for self-curation, and knowing when to drop a show is a big part of that. Unfortunately, this is also a blurry line. We could have very easily missed a really good show, but it was the little things we picked up on that made us give it another chance. The logo for Dead Mount Deathplay being sci-fi inspired, not fantasy, the vague notion it was trying to do something, and the elaborate character designs made us give it a chance. That and the fact it was a first episode. As we know from our other experiences, it could just be a bad start. That's why things like the 3-episode rule exist. But now that's potentially over a quarter of an anime's run, getting the other senses down is key. Do you have any curiosity? Do you care about these characters? Have you spent the last 5 minutes looking at your phone? These are good questions to ask yourself if you feel yourself becoming disengaged from a show. And if you are, that's okay. The next step is working out if this is a you problem or the anime's problem. If it's a you problem, that's an easy fix. Stop watching. You tried it and you didn't like it. Cool. Perfectly okay. There's like 3,000 other shows you could be watching right now. But if it's the anime at fault, this is where our friend media literacy comes into play. It can be hard to pin down the exacts, especially if you haven't analysed media since high school, but a good place to start is with the general vibe. Vague, I know, but generally if you don't like something, or are bored, that's because subconsciously you're picking up on something the show is doing wrong. First episodes are a window to the series. An interesting trend we're seeing now is movie-length first episodes, for better or for worse. This could be due to new manga having a slower start, or maybe it's the studio trying really hard to grab viewers' attention in the whirlpool of shows coming out every season. But back to Dead Mount Deathplay.
So far, we've talked about first episodes, but what about the second half of the title? The amazing anime. What makes it worth slogging through that first 23 minutes and 40 seconds? Dead Mount Deathplay follows Polka Shinuyama, who has recently died and been replaced with the soul of the necromancer, the Corpse God. Recently slain, he just wants to live in a peaceful world. Unfortunately, Japan isn't all that peaceful. He's dropped into a world of criminal syndicates, police corruption, family strife, and the mysterious people known only as the Troublemakers. All the hallmarks that make Ryogo Narita's work amazing are here. Multiple complex factions, all with interweaving objectives, desires, and involvement. One episode you might be watching Polka try to fool his new body's family, the Shinoyama clan, and to the next he'll be being attacked by the Troublemakers or the police or anyone in between. You never quite know who's allied with who, and the plot always thickens. We were so sad when we finished the 12th episode because things had really started to hit the fan and our minds were racing coming up with theories. Thankfully, the second core is coming out in October, so there isn't too much time to wait. Until that time comes, I'll just keep getting hyped for Gear 5 Luffy. Hopefully this video comes out before he arrives.
Cores are another subject we want to make a video on, especially with the announcement of Attack on Titan's final the 5th part 3.5 trailer. Or whatever it's called. The anime industry is definitely up to something interesting here. Thanks for watching! Let us know what you thought down below. We're always excited to hear your thoughts in our videos. Especially let us know if you want us to try more rewrite videos like this. It's a challenge, but a welcome one. Be quiet, helicopter. Spending months researching facts to correlate a massive video is fun and all, but sometimes it's good to just vibe and create stories. Speaking of stories, we're currently participating in the MerriKiwi Honeyfeed light novel event. Not sure if we'll finish all the chapters in time, but if you're interested, feel free to check it out, and we'll try and get it done even if the competition is up. Links are down below. Also, thanks for subscribing, it means the world to us. We can't wait until we get to buy a drink at the pub funded by you guys. Until next time, bye bye!